Hey. Ooh la la, ah wee wee. Ooh la la, ah wee wee. Hey. Ooh la la, ah wee wee. Hey. Ooh la la, ah wee wee. Ooh la la, ah wee wee.
What is good, loves? So in this video, I'll be showing you how I created my custom kicks. I'll be showing you how I created my white shoes, my first attempt on my black shoes, and the second attempt on my black shoes. And unfortunately, they are attempts because I unintentionally skipped two very crucial steps, one in the beginning and then the second one at the end. So as I explain these shoes, or as I explain the process for my black shoes, I will also be adding in the steps that I unintentionally skipped. So without further ado, let's get into the materials list. Alright, so if you're using Cricut, you need your Cricut, your mat, your weaver tools, cheap tape if your mat has lost adhesive, removable vinyl if you're looking to paint the details onto your shoes, transfer tape if you are using removable vinyl, or heat transfer vinyl if you're just looking to let Cricut cut it for you, a mini iron for your heat transfer vinyl, and scissors. Now your primary essentials. Painter's tape is highly recommended, but you can use masking tape. But if you do use masking tape, understand that it will leave residue behind. And details on that are in Mistakes to Avoid. So after that, you need your paintbrush. An airbrush is not mandatory, but it is recommended if you're using AngelusPaint, primarily because it just goes on more evenly. And other paints that I have used were cheap satin paint and spray paint. And for my spray paint, I used glue adhesive, but quite incorrectly, so just make sure you read your directions on whichever brand that you get. Duller is to be mixed in with your AngelusPaint, but it's something I haven't used. It was just something I learned about on this journey, so links on that is in the description. Acetone is used to remove the sealant around the plastic of your shoes, and you normally apply it with cotton balls. Acrylic finisher, once more, is with AngelusPaint, and it's to be used to seal your paint once your shoe is done. And these are the results of some of their many finishes. And if you feel that your acrylic finisher is a bit sticky at the end, grab you some neutral wax and a polishing brush. Gently buff it around the rubber of your shoe once your acrylic finisher has completely dried, and you should be good to go. Heat gun is completely optional. It just dries your shoe faster and your shoe of choice. Now, we'll start with how I created my white shoes. And because it's honestly the simplest part. So for all of my white base shoes, I used apple barrel paint. At this step, you can either go ahead and tape it off, or you can just go ahead and start painting. If you do choose to not use tape, make sure you have some water and a wet rag on hand. You'll be using that rag to wipe off any of the excess paint that gets on your rubber. So when painting my shoes, I started around the edges so I can go ahead and get them out the way, and then I did the eyelets, using my rag to gently wipe away the paint on my eyelets and around the edges. And these were the end results. Now, on to the laces. For my laces, I made the mistake of using matte acrylic paint. I should have used satin based, and I just pretty much used poster board to paint on. And because I had so many shoes, I got some wool and some hanger clips. Then I pulled that string across my entertainment system and then clamped on all my laces so therefore they can sit and dry. After my paint was dry, I just started experimenting with designs. With my shoes now complete, time to lace them babies up. After searching YouTube for unique ways to lace up your shoes, I landed on this for all of them. Now the first attempt on my black shoes. So my first attempt on my black shoes, I knew nothing about shoe customization when it comes to the rubber and the soles. So I ended up using black spray paint to spray around the base of my shoes. Then I just used regular black acrylic paint to paint the fabric for all of the shoes. When all my paint was dry, I weaved out all of my removable vinyl and then added them to the shoes. Once all set, I got the painting. As the paint for the design was drying, I took my shoes back outside and spray painted the soles of them. But of course, since paint got everywhere, all good. I just went back to my black acrylic paint and just painted around the edges, made it all back balanced. So now, of course, since the shoes were done, on to the laces. For my laces, I wanted the colors to match the soles of the shoes and the design on the vinyl. And once all of my paint was dry and I peeled off all of my vinyl, these were the end results. Now on to the last one and my favorite, my MCC X11s. Yes. These are honestly my favorite, primarily because I put into everything that I've learned with creating, I put into these shoes. And even though I did still mess them up, I'm still proud of them. So let's get into it. So before I even began, I was supposed to get acetone and some cotton swabs to rub off the protective layer around the rubber and the soles of the shoe. It was definitely the catalyst to the end result, but it's all good. On to the process. So being that I didn't have the confidence to use my airbrush yet, I just got my paintbrush and started painting. As I moved through all of my shoes, I would begin painting at the toe of it and then work up the tongue of the shoe. And once the tongue was done, I would paint around the inside of the shoe, but just around the inside of the eyelets and just around the edges of the back, just to ensure there was no white seen anywhere on the shoe. Once the inside was complete, I would then start painting the outside of the eyelets and the entire sides and the back of the shoes. And I didn't worry about painting the base black primarily because I was gonna paint them. So for the soles of my shoes, I noticed that 2 layers was the best, but seeing how it all dried and came out, 3 to 4 layers are honestly way better if you're painting the soles of your shoes. Once all the soles were dried, got my black paint and went and touched up the edges. So now with all the base paint of all my shoes done, time to add in the details. I just wanted a little bit of a pop of detail. So I took each paint per each shoe and flicked it across my shoes. And once more, if you haven't seen any of my other videos, to flick is simply dip your middle finger in the paint, slide it between your thumb, and flick it. And there you have it. Now with every bit of the painting done, time to get that acrylic finisher. Also to note, if you're using acrylic finisher, lay as thin a layer as you can at a time. Put on one thin layer, let it dry, and if you need more, add another thin layer, one at a time. From what I've researched, it will help with its drying process and it'll keep it from being so sticky. But if it is a little bit sticky, grab you some neutral wax, your polishing brush, and just polish it on out. So with my shoes done, I painted all of my laces, then set them to the side to dry. Now time to iron on that vinyl. As you're weaving your vinyl out, go ahead and plug in your mini iron so it'll be ready for you when you are. Once you center your design on your shoe, place your finger on the opposite side of where you're going to iron and then gently but slowly start pulling that iron across your design with the same slowness that you see here, ensuring that it's sticking as you go. Also when ironing, be very careful to keep your iron on the design and not hitting the rubber on the base of your shoe, because it will mess up your paint. With the vinyl now done, time to lace up. And that's how the second trial on my black shoes went. And now, of course, the mistakes to avoid. For one, use painter's tape. If you can't afford painter's tape, I completely understand. Like, I went full on 99-cent masking tape. Walmart, no, it was actually 79-cent masking tape. But I say that to say, with masking tape, as you can see here, the scuff marks, well, the scuff marks of course came from like just regular wear and tear, but these pieces right here, all right there, that's where my tape was. That's where I had my masking tape. And because I was still new to this, and because this was literally the very first, my white shoes was the very first time I ever tried to customize a shoe, being that it was my first time, I didn't know with masking tape, it leaves behind glue adhesive from the tape, and if you don't clean it off with a little bit of soap and some water, just scrub it off gently. If you don't clean it off and dirt gets on it, it's almost like it's just painted in there. Of course, it's still easy to fix, but it's a part of the appeal for me now. Also, when you are taping, be very, very as precise as you can on your edges and just around the areas that you don't want painted. I say this primarily because, as you can see here, this part came over a little bit, and this part, I pushed the tape up too much, so part of the shoe wasn't even painted. But once more, it didn't really bother me because of the overall results. So honestly, after ensuring that your tape is on point, however which way you go about painting is your choice. But I will say, if you are using AngelusPaint, I had to pause it right here because I forgot to say earlier that this 4-ounce bottle did literally 8 of my 10 shoes. That is all. Painting it on is cool, as what I said before, painting it on is cool, but I still have to say again, I would highly recommend using an airbrush if you're using AngelusPaint, primarily because of the liquid. It's like water, honestly. It's rich. I ain't gonna lie. I'm not I'm not being paid to promote AngelusPaint, but on Christ, on God, on everything I love, if you are customizing shoes, this honestly is the go. All right, one more time. Another thing about AngelusPaint, depending on your paint, this 4-ounce bottle cost me less than $7. So that was less than $7 for 8 pairs of shoes. And for your 1 ounce, depending on your paint color, you'll be spending less than $4. One ounce was enough for me to create a custom shoe for a customer, paint my laces, and paint the soles with a couple of layers for the soles of my shoes. If I had an airbrush, y'all would've, matter of fact, it's all good because I do have an airbrush and I'm gonna use my airbrush. And when I do have that 3rd attempt at making black shoes, I'm gonna show y'all the results. So it's all good, but that's all I still wanted to say. That's all I still wanted to add. If you're painting your laces, whew, just to keep from having a severe headache at the end of your process, just use fabric paint or satin-based paint, any kind of satin-based paint, because I understand how I was balling on the budget myself when I first started this. Cheap satin paint was my go-to. Because of this. You see this? I gotta show that too. Because I used acrylic paint for this, it dried hard, of course. So I had to kind of bend each and every single lace for each and every single one of my shoes in order for it to come together correctly. But as can be seen, the ripping and the tearing can still mess up the integrity of the shoe. So when it comes to laces, just be mindful. That's all I can say. If you really want to paint your laces, just take in that extra $1.50 to get the satin base, any brand, satin base, for the lace, satin base. And of course, once more, before you paint the base, any rubber part, any non-fabric part of your shoe, make sure you get your cotton ball with the acetone and just gently scrub it first before you paint it. You have to get that protective seal off before you paint, or else it would just be a beautiful piece of art. And then of course, once you are done painting everything, ensure that you are putting on your sealant. Here, if you can see, as a matter of fact, yeah, you see how sticky that is? I put too much sealant. Be gentle, be light with your sealant, and allow its time to dry properly. But I've also noticed that sometimes I've also noticed in other videos that the drying process still leaves it kind of sticky. So the remedy to that, again, is to get your buffer and just wax buff it a little bit. And apparently from the videos that works. Again, I don't know, I haven't been able to try that yet. And when I'm able to, I will definitely give you my personal input. But for the moment, from what I've learned thus far, that's what I know. And for the soles of the shoe, as you can see here, be generous with your layers. I wore these once just to kind of test them out, and yeah, once was enough to scuff it just a little bit. And this was after I put sealant on it as well. Of course, I forgot the first step with the acetone, of course, but still, I feel like that, regardless of the acetone mishap, I still feel that, and this was finisher, so I feel like even regardless, you should still have those extra layers on just in case. And if you are using spray paint on your shoes, like regular kind of spray paint, regular like non-fabric spray paint or anything like that, like something that you would need a sealer on, don't use GlueAdhesiveSpray. See the difference? So if you do use GlueAdhesiveSpray, if you do use GlueAdhesiveSpray, just make sure you're putting on a thin layer, at least one thin layer at a time as it dries. Because this here, I got generous, I'll be honest. As you saw in the videos, as you saw before, I've done a plethora of shoes. So I was kind of trying to speed it along. I was trying to do everything for each shoe as I went through the steps. And yeah, And that is all, loves. And once more, once I get on that third attempt, it's gonna be successful. I'm claiming it in the name of Jesus. On that third step, on that third attempt, I promise y'all I'm gonna make another video to show y'all step by step each particular part so you can have the most successful brand of shoe line you ever could make. Okay? Okay. As well as that, my primary goal within every single one of these videos is to give you every single bit of the information that you need at the basics of it. I want to be able to give you every single piece of accurate information as far as processing. So once you have the processing and the basics down, now it's just all in creating something new. You already know how to do it, now you just got to come up with the ideas. So that's my goal, and I pray that's what you are able to receive. So if you like the video, hit the like button, show us some love. And if you are looking to see more, and if you're curious to see more, hit the subscribe button, because I can guarantee you I'm coming with some more. And if you're curious to know how I made these, then check out the next video coming up, part 11? I think it's part 11, yes. Part 11 of how I created my bead jewelry. Is it part 11 or is it part 12? Hold up. Part 12. Check out part 12 of my video, and I'll show you how I created my beads and how you can create your own. So without further ado, y'all have a blessed day, loves, and until next time.
Looking for M's like I lost a friend. Jump out of my bed like where the bread. You go hold the egg. Waiter, bring the check.